habitat's life support system was a closed-loop design, recycling air through chemical scrubbers to remove carbon dioxide. This engineering approach mirrors systems used in modern submarines and spacecraft, where external resupply is impossible. Human physiology imposes strict limits. Oxygen concentration must remain between 19.5% and 23.5% to prevent hypoxia or oxygen toxicity. Carbon dioxide buildup presents a more immediate threat than oxygen depletion, causing disorientation and unconsciousness at levels above 3%. The psychological challenge involved extreme sensory deprivation, with no natural light, temperature variation, or human contact. This contrasts with typical survival scenarios where environmental factors like weather or predators provide stimulation. Mental endurance was maintained through strict routine, including scheduled tasks, exercise, and cognitive exercises. The duration represents an extreme case study in human adaptability under engineered constraints rather than natural ones. The capsule was a self-contained life support system designed to maintain a breathable atmosphere through chemical scrubbers that removed carbon dioxide. Power came from a combination of batteries and a small external generator, with redundant systems for critical functions like temperature control. Such habitats operate on principles similar to spacecraft life support, where every system failure carries immediate consequences. The technician monitored multiple parameters: oxygen levels, pressure differentials, carbon dioxide concentrations, and power consumption. Communication with the surface occurred through a hardwired connection, as radio signals cannot penetrate thick ice and water effectively. Psychological factors in isolation studies include monitoring for signs of cognitive decline, sleep disturbances, and decision-making impairment. The capsule's design prioritized redundancy, with backup systems for primary life support functions in case of component failure. Environmental control systems in such habitats must maintain precise conditions despite external pressure from the surrounding ocean. The mission was designed to test isolation and self-sufficiency in an extreme environment. Communication with the surface was limited to scheduled data bursts. This type of protocol is common in remote research or analog space missions to simulate communication delays. Such environments test psychological resilience by removing real-time social feedback. Self-sufficiency requires managing all resources, from food and water to equipment maintenance. Isolation studies help understand human behavior under stress in confined, high-stakes settings. Data bursts are brief, compressed transmissions to conserve bandwidth over long distances. This setup mirrors conditions in deep space missions or remote polar expeditions. The habitat was a self-contained, pressurized capsule designed for deep ice research. Its primary umbilical connection provided power, data, and a mechanical winch for retrieval. A sudden, massive shift in the overlying ice shelf severed this critical lifeline. This event stranded the sealed and pressurized habitat deep within the ice. Without the umbilical, the habitat lost external power and communications. Most critically, the mechanism to winch the capsule back to the surface was now inoperable. The crew inside was now dependent solely on the capsule's internal life support systems. Such ice shelf movements are a known, documented risk in polar and glacial environments. The capsule's survival capability stemmed from its integrated life support system, which functioned as a self-contained biological environment. This closed-loop design meant all essential resources were recycled internally, preventing contamination from the external environment. Sophisticated air scrubbers continuously removed carbon dioxide, preventing toxic buildup that would otherwise occur in confined spaces. Oxygen generators worked in tandem with these scrubbers, replenishing breathable air through chemical or electrolytic processes. Water reclamation systems processed all moisture, from humidity to bodily fluids, into purified drinking water. Such systems are similar to those used in modern submarines and space stations, where external resupply isn't possible. The integration of these components created what engineers call a CAPI, bioregenerative system, sustaining life through continuous recycling. This technological foundation made extended isolation possible by mimicking Earth's natural life-sustaining processes. The technician's survival depended entirely on these systems continuing to function. Her rigorous management of consumable filters and components was a constant necessity. This maintenance routine determined whether breathable air and clean water would be available. The habitat was stocked for a mission far longer than a typical shift. However, the supplies were not intended to last for 438 days. This created a critical disparity between planned duration and actual isolation. Life support systems in such environments typically have calculated redundancy margins. Extended operation beyond design parameters stresses both equipment and human psychology. The storage contained a significant supply of concentrated food, vitamins, and medical supplies. This type of concentrated food is designed for long-term storage and emergency situations, providing high calories and nutrients in compact form. Medical supplies in such caches typically include antibiotics, pain relievers, bandages, and trauma kits for treating injuries without immediate hospital access. Rationing became a daily ritual of survival, with strict inventory control implemented to prevent depletion. This level of meticulous resource management is common in survival scenarios, where every calorie and medical item must be accounted for. Such stockpiles suggest preparation for extended isolation, or situations where normal supply chains would be unavailable. The psychological impact of strict rationing includes constant calculation of remaining resources against uncertain timelines. This approach to survival emphasizes discipline over indulgence, where consumption is governed by necessity rather than desire. The technician's isolation was absolute, with all external communication systems permanently offline. Without any means to signal for help, she was completely cut off from the outside world. Psychological research shows that maintaining structure is a common coping mechanism during extreme isolation. She implemented a rigid daily schedule that included work, exercise, and equipment maintenance. This structured routine served as a psychological anchor against the disorienting effects of prolonged solitude. Remarkably, she continued conducting the scientific experiments she was originally assigned to complete. This continuation of professional duties represents a documented survival strategy in extreme isolation scenarios. The combination of structure, work, and purpose helped maintain psychological stability despite the circumstances. The eventual recovery began over a year later, initiated by a private operation analyzing long-term data. Their analysis suggested the submerged habitat capsule might still be intact beneath the ice. This suspicion triggered a separate, complex engineering operation to attempt a retrieval. The primary challenge was drilling through the massive, shifted ice formations that had entombed the site. The operation's core objective was to safely retrieve the habitat without causing further structural collapse. This phase of the incident highlights significant limits to public knowledge. What remains unknown are the most intimate details of the psychological struggle endured inside. The precise mechanisms of group dynamics, stress response, and personal endurance during the long isolation are not documented. Technical logs provide data, but the survivor's personal experience remains inaccessible to investigators. A common misconception portrays this as a frantic, constant battle against imminent suffocation. In reality, the threat was a slow, silent degradation of systems over time. Critical component failures often occur without warning signs, creating invisible vulnerabilities. This became a battle of meticulous maintenance against the natural process of entropy. Entropy represents the inevitable tendency of systems to move toward disorder without intervention. The silent nature of such degradation makes detection challenging until critical thresholds are crossed. Maintenance protocols must anticipate both visible wear and invisible material fatigue. Contrary to popular belief, the rescue operation was not a dramatic, last-minute race against time. The reality involved a prolonged period where hope had effectively been abandoned. Only after the parent organization slowly pieced together evidence suggesting survival was even a possibility did action begin. What followed was a slow, deliberate engineering project, not an emergency extraction. This case provides concrete lessons in extreme survival within engineered environments, like submarines or sealed habitats. It demonstrates how human endurance interfaces with the failure points and life support systems of complex, human-made structures. The key takeaway is understanding survival not as luck, but as a function of environment, resources, and systematic response. This principle of redundancy is not just theoretical. It's a proven survival strategy in extreme environments. In remote or hazardous operations, primary systems can fail due to environmental stress, mechanical wear, or unforeseen events. Independent fail-safes operate on separate power sources, control circuits, and mechanical components from the primary systems. This isolation prevents a single point of failure from cascading through the entire system. Similar redundancy patterns appear in critical infrastructure, like nuclear power plants and surgical operating rooms. The capsule's survival demonstrates that when backups have their own backups, systems can withstand multiple sequential failures. This approach requires designing systems with complete separation rather than just additional component. In high-risk environments, this level of redundancy becomes non-negotiable for survival. In prolonged survival situations, structured routines serve as a psychological anchor against overwhelming stress. Maintaining equipment logs and following rationing plans creates a sense of control when external circumstances are chaotic. This discipline is often more critical for mental preservation than dramatic, impulsive actions. The human mind can fixate on manageable tasks to avoid confronting the scale of a crisis. In extreme isolation or danger, a strict schedule prevents the mind from spiraling into panic or despair. This procedural adherence is a documented coping mechanism observed in various real-world survival scenarios. It represents a conscious choice to prioritize order over emotion, which can be the key to endurance. The 72-hour rule is a common guideline in search and rescue, suggesting a critical window for survival after a disaster. This story challenges that timeline, demonstrating survival far beyond that period under specific conditions. The key factor is a truly closed-loop system, where the environment provides the minimal essentials for life. System integrity, the physical stability of the shelter, becomes the primary determinant of survival time. Psychological resilience is equally critical. as the mind must cope with extreme isolation and uncertainty. This shifts the rescue focus from a rigid time limit to assessing the durability of the survivor's immediate environment. Historical cases of prolonged entrapment support this principle, where individuals survive for days or weeks. It redefines hope in rescue operations, emphasizing that survival is possible as long as the basic system holds. This principle applies to remote research stations, offshore drilling platforms, and long-haul cargo vessels. These operations often function with minimal crew and limited external contact for extended periods. A. Heartbeat. System is an automated status signal sent at regular intervals. If the signal stops without a scheduled shutdown, it triggers an immediate alert at a central monitoring station. This is distinct from direct communication, which requires human initiation. The absence of a heartbeat does not specify the problem, only that one exists. Such systems are a standard risk mitigation tool in high isolation environments. Their failure or absence can leave an operation completely invisible until it is too late. The survival capsule was engineered with multiple redundant life support systems, including air filtration and temperature regulation. This engineering foresight created what experts call a PACA, margin of safety. PACA, the buffer between survival and catastrophe in extreme environments. The individual underwent psychological conditioning to withstand sensory deprivation and isolation, similar to astronaut training protocols. Discipline was maintained through strict daily routines, including exercise, mental exercises, and system maintenance checks. The combination of engineering and human preparation created what survival experts term a cascade prevention effect. This approach mirrors high-risk professions, where preparation transforms potential tragedies into survival records. The capsule's design included fail-safes for power, communication, and emergency provisions, all tested under simulated conditions. Psychological resilience training focused on maintaining cognitive function during prolonged isolation, a critical factor in survival duration.